Matthew never thought fixing a broken translator would change his life. He had just arrived on Station Zeta 9, a large research and diplomacy center shared by more than 40 alien species. Most humans were scientists, diplomats, or military. Matthew was none of those. He was a technician. He fixed things. Nothing fancy, just wires, panels, and circuits. Aliens rarely noticed him. To most of them, he was just another soft-skinned human walking through the halls, wearing a jumpsuit with grease stains and carrying a toolkit, until she showed up. Matthew first saw her near the main reactor room. She was tall, graceful, and covered in soft, silver-blue skin that shimmered faintly under the lights. Her name was Yavira, from a species called the Valeri. They were quiet, calm, and always kept to themselves. Yavira's translator was flickering and she looked frustrated. She stood near the wall, tapping the small device on her wrist. Matthew walked over, careful not to scare her. "Hey," he said, voice gentle, "you need help with that?" Yavira looked at him. Her large violet eyes blinked slowly. She didn't speak, just tilted her wrist toward him. Her translator sparked again and let out a strange clicking sound. He crouched beside her, pulled a small tool from his belt, and started working. The device was old and dusty. Probably hadn't been updated in years. "There," he said after a few minutes. "Try it now." The translator buzzed, then clicked into a steady green glow. Yavira looked surprised. She touched it and said something in her language. This time, her voice came out clear through the translator. "It is working, thank you." "No problem," Matthew replied with a smile. "You're kinda cute when you're confused, by the way." He meant it as a joke. Just something light to break the silence. She didn't laugh. In fact, she froze. Her eyes locked on his face, and her expression became unreadable. Matthew suddenly felt awkward. Sorry, I didn't mean that in a weird way. Just trying to be friendly." Yavira turned and walked away without another word. He scratched his head. Well, that went well. He didn't think about it much after that. Aliens were often strange with human humor. Maybe she just didn't understand, but the next day everything changed. Matthew was in his room, eating some rehydrated noodles and listening to old Earth music when his door chimed. He opened it and nearly dropped his bowl. The Viewership stood there. Her translator was missing. In her hands she held a folded piece of dark fabric. It looked soft and decorated with tiny silver threads. She stepped inside without asking, gently placed the cloth on his table, and looked at him. Her silver-blue skin shimmered more than usual. Matthew noticed she wore something different now, simple robes instead of her usual uniform. She slowly reached for the front clasp and undid it. "Whoa, hey." "Wait," Matthew panicked, turning away. "What are you doing?" She didn't answer. The room was quiet. He kept his eyes on the wall and waved his hand. "Listen, I think something got lost in translation yesterday. I didn't mean anything serious. I was just trying to be nice." A soft hand touched his shoulder. He turned slightly. Yavira was standing there with calm eyes, holding the folded fabric again. She placed it in his hands, then tapped her chest, then his. He stared at her, completely confused. A few moments later his com beeped. Message came through from one of the station assistants, an alien named Teller who worked in administration. "Technician Matthew. Did you, by any chance, compliment a Valeri yesterday?" Matthew typed back. "Yeah, said she was cute. Why?" Oh, no, what?" "The Valeri don't flirt, they bond. A direct compliment about appearance is considered a proposal. If she's bringing you her ceremonial cloak, she accepted." Matthew dropped the cloth and stared at Yavira. "You think we're—" Yavira nodded slowly, still watching him with gentle eyes. Matthew sat down, his face pale. He had no idea what he just got himself into. Matthew didn't sleep well that night. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, his mind spinning. The folded cloak Yavira gave him still sat on his table. It looked harmless, even beautiful. But now he knew it wasn't just a gift, it was something serious. Something deep. The Viewership bonded with him. He kept thinking about what Teller said in the message. Valeri didn't flirt, they didn't joke. When they gave their ceremonial cloak, it meant commitment. Not for a day or a week, but forever. All I said was she was cute. Matthew whispered to himself. The next morning, he went straight to the station's cultural office. A middle-aged human named Dr. Haley greeted him. She was the cultural advisor for Earth's side of the station. I need help, Matthew said, looking stressed. Haley raised an eyebrow. You look like someone who accidentally proposed to an alien. Matthew sat down hard. I did. She sighed, pulled up a screen and searched something. Valeri traditions, let's see. Here. Yes, their bonding customs are old. One compliment can start the process. If she brings her personal cloak to you, it means she accepts. Is there a way to undo it? Matthew asked. Technically, yes, Haley said, looking serious. But it might hurt her. Rejection is rare in Valeri culture. It could damage her pride, maybe even her standing among her people, especially if others know about it already. Matthew ran his hands through his hair. I didn't mean to start anything. She doesn't even know me. Are you sure? Haley asked. Some species don't fall in love like humans do. They observe, watch, and choose based on action, not charm. Matthew remembered the way Yavira looked at him. She had never smiled or laughed, but there had been something soft in her eyes. Maybe she had noticed him before he ever noticed her. What do I do now? He asked. You talk to her, Haley said gently. Be honest. But be kind, Matthew nodded. It was the only way. He found Yavira sitting near the hydro garden, where alien plants grew in warm light. She was reading something on a small screen. When she saw him, she stood up quickly. He sat across from her. Yavira, he began, speaking slowly. I didn't understand your ways. When I said you were cute, I wasn't trying to bond with you. I was just being friendly. Her eyes didn't change. She stayed still, watching him. I talked to someone, he continued. They explained what the cloak means. And I'm sorry if I caused confusion or pain. Yavira tapped her chest. Then held up two fingers and crossed them, one of the few universal signs of bond in Valeri language. You still want to? He asked. She nodded once. Matthew sighed. Why? Yavira reached for her translator. She had brought it this time but hadn't worn it yet. She placed it around her neck, activated it, and spoke slowly. You fixed my voice, she said. You noticed my trouble when others did not. That's just my job, Matthew said, surprised. You looked at me with warmth, she said. Not fear, not boredom. You spoke gently. That is rare. He rubbed the back of his neck. Look, I like you, really. I just didn't know all this would happen. I can release you, Yavira said after a pause. But I do not wish to. Her voice trembled a little. Matthew noticed it for the first time. She wasn't just calm, she was nervous. He leaned forward. So, if I accept, what does that mean for us? It means we walk together, she said. Learn together, support each other. No rush, just promise, Matthew blinked. That didn't sound bad at all. It wasn't about rules or control. It was about trust. Okay, he said softly. But we go slow, deal? Yavira smiled just a little, but for her that was big deal. They sat in silence for a while, watching the garden lights shift to soft blue. Matthew still didn't fully understand her world, her culture, or what the future held. But for the first time he wasn't afraid. He was curious. Matthew didn't expect the news to spread so fast. By the next morning, whispers had already started. Technicians looked at him longer than usual. Two engineers from the Shivak species nodded at him with what seemed like respect. Even the cafeteria robot gave him extra dessert. At first, Matthew didn't know why until Teller found him in the corridor and said, Word is out. They say you accepted the Valeri bond. Congratulations, human. Matthew nearly dropped his tools. I didn't say it like that. I just said we go slow. In Valeri tradition, slow or not, a bond is. A bond? Teller said with a shrug. Besides, she smiled yesterday. That alone means something. She smiled? Matthew asked. Yes. And to them, smiling during a bond moment is very rare. Most Valeri only smile in private or during deep connection, Matthew groaned. Great. Now I'm part of an alien love story. Later that day he saw Yavira again in the engineering wing. She stood near the energy core, studying a diagram. When she noticed him, she gave a soft nod. A few others nearby quickly moved away, giving them space. Apparently, no one wanted to disturb the bonded pair. "We may have a problem," Matthew whispered. "What kind?" Yavira asked calmly. "People think we're already together, like officially." Yavira tilted her head. "Is that not correct?" "I mean, yes, but also I wanted time, not public attention." "Attention fades," she said. "But choices do not." Matthew couldn't argue with that. She was right. He had made a choice even if it was strange and unexpected. "Can we just act normal for now?" he asked. "What is normal for a bonded pair?" She asked, genuinely curious. He sighed. "Good point." To distract himself, Matthew threw himself into his work. He spent the next few days fixing panels, updating software, and helping with a sensor upgrade on the outer ring. Yavira sometimes joined him. She didn't speak much, but when she did, it was always thoughtful. They worked well together. She was focused and calm. He was quick and clever. When a panel sparked and nearly hit him with a jolt, she pulled him back just in time. Their hands touched Dot for a moment. Neither moved. "Thank you," he said. "You are mine to protect." She replied softly. Those words stayed in his mind all night. The next morning, things got strange again. An alien named Korik from the Strong and sharp-tongued Dravari species approached Matthew in the hallway. He was known for teasing others sometimes too much. "So human," Korik said with a sneer. "You bond with the quiet ice princes? Didn't know your kind moved that fast." Matthew kept calm. "It wasn't planned." "Clearly," Korik said, stepping closer. "Maybe she picked you because no other species would want her." Weak, slow, cold stop. Matthew's voice turned firm. Korik laughed. "Oh, defending her now?" "Yeah," Matthew said. "She's stronger than you think. Smarter, too, and she never needed your approval." Yavira appeared behind Korik without a sound. Her eyes were sharp now, her calmness replaced with quiet fire. "Leave him alone," she said, voice even. Korik looked surprised, then scoffed. "Whatever, enjoy your little bond." He walked away, but others had seen the scene. A few nodded toward Matthew with respect. Some even smiled. The VIR looked at him. "You did not have to speak." "Yes, I did," Matthew replied. "No one talks about you like that, not while I'm here." Yavira stared at him for a long time. "You defend me with words. We call that soul armor." "Well," he said, trying to lighten the mood. "Hope it's strong enough." "It is," she said. "Because it came from truth." They walked side by side after that. Not holding hands. Not touching. Just walking together. And for Matthew, it finally started to feel real. For the next few days, Matthew and Yavira moved like a quiet pair through the station. They didn't talk much. But when they did, it was always meaningful. They ate together. In the cafeteria, often choosing a corner table where no one bothered them. Matthew got used to her calm presence, her careful way of looking at everything, and the way her voice softened when she spoke only to him. It felt strange yet peaceful. One evening, as the stars turned outside the window walls, Yavira invited him to the Valeri section of the station. Few humans had ever been there. The halls were dim and quiet, lit by soft blue lights. The air felt cooler, filled with the scent of something like frozen flowers. They entered a room that looked like a small garden. Pale plants glowed gently around a pool of still water. Yavira sat on a cushion and gestured for Matthew to join her. "This place is beautiful." He said, "It is meant for memory," she replied. Matthew sat beside her, feeling the coolness of the floor through the cushion. "What kind of memory? Shared memory?" Yavira said. "This is how my people begin true bonding. Not through words or promises, but through understanding." She reached into a small box beside her and pulled out 2 thin silver bands. They pulsed faintly with light. "We place these on our heads. They link thoughts, not all, but some important ones." Matthew hesitated. "You mean like mind reading?" "No," she said gently. "Only feelings, short images. It is safe." He took a breath. "Okay, let's do it." She placed one band on his head, then the other on hers. The light between them grew stronger. Then something strange happened. Matthew saw her memories not like movies, but like flashes. Yavira as a child, sitting alone among taller children. Yavira training quietly while others laughed and shouted. Yavira watching Matthew from afar, seeing him fix machines with care, choosing kindness over pride. His chest felt warm. Then his memories flowed to her. A younger Matthew on Earth, running through rainy streets, sitting at a desk full of parts helping his little sister fix her toy. Loneliness, quiet hope. Small moments of happiness. The VIR reached for his hand, just lightly. It wasn't romantic. It was respectful. The light faded and the bands turned dark. The link ended. Matthew blinked. He felt like he'd been somewhere far away. That was, he began. Truthful, Yavira finished. Now we understand, he nodded. Yeah, I think we do. Later, as they walked back through the corridor, Yavira asked softly, Do you still wish for slow? Matthew thought for a moment. I still want to learn. But I'm not afraid now. She gave him a small smile. Then we walk at one pace. When he reached his quarters, he found a small message waiting. It was from Dr. Haley. You've been invited to speak at the Interspecies Harmony meeting. They want to hear from someone involved in a new human-Valeri bond. Matthew stared at the message, then laughed softly. Great, now I'm a public example. The next day, he stood at a podium in front of more than 50 species. Yavira stood beside him, calm as ever. I'm not a diplomat, Matthew began. I fix broken things, wires, machines, doors, but sometimes you meet someone who fixes a part of you instead. He glanced at Yavira. We didn't plan this. It started with a compliment. A mistake, maybe, but it led to something more honest than I expected, and now I'm learning, growing, and I think that's worth sharing. The room stayed silent for a moment, then filled with quiet, clapping soft clicks, hums, and hand taps. Each from a different culture. After the meeting, Yavira looked at him. You spoke with spirit. You inspired it, he replied. They walked back together, no rush. No pressure. Just steps side by side. Matthew was starting to enjoy his strange new life. He never expected to become a symbol of peace. On Station Zeta 9, he had only been there to fix panels and wires. But now, many aliens from different species stopped to greet him in the halls. Some asked questions about Earth customs. Others wanted to know how he and Yavira had formed such a quiet, respectful bond, and some just smiled, nodded, and moved on. The VIR walked beside him more often now. She didn't speak unless needed, but her presence brought calm. When others stared or asked strange questions, she stood close, offering silent support. Her expression was always peaceful, but her eyes watched everything. One day as they worked together in the cooling unit tunnels, Yavira spoke suddenly. My people will arrive soon. Matthew looked up from his tool. Your family? No, Valeri elders, they wish to observe? Matthew froze. Observe what? Us, she said. Our bond? They do not fully trust outsiders. This visit is their way of watching. He wiped his hands and sat down on a crate. Will they judge me? They will study, she replied. If they sense disrespect or weakness, they may speak. Matthew felt a bit nervous now. When? Are they coming? Tomorrow? He stood up quickly. Tomorrow? Yavira placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Do not fear. Speak as you are. Walk with truth. The next day, Matthew put on his cleanest uniform. He even brushed his hair, something he didn't do often. He arrived at the garden room early, pacing. Then they arrived 3 Valeri elders, tall and quiet, their skin slightly darker than Yavira's and covered in elegant robes with silver designs. The VIR stood between them and Matthew. This is my bondmate, she said calmly. The tallest elder stepped forward. His voice was deep and quiet. You are human. Yes, sir, Matthew said. You spoke a bond phrase with no full knowledge. The elder continued. That's true, Matthew admitted. But I didn't walk away. I learned. I stayed. Because she's worth it. There was silence. Then the second elder stepped forward. Have you shared memory? Yes, Matthew said. And it changed me, the third elder spoke at last. Would you protect her? Matthew didn't hesitate. I already have. And I will again. The elders turned to Yavira. His words are simple. His heart is clear, she replied. The elders looked at one another, then slowly bowed their heads. We accept the bond, Matthew exhaled slowly. He didn't realize how tense he'd been. As the elders left the room, Yavira remained. She walked over to him, her eyes soft. You spoke with strength. She said, I was terrified, Matthew admitted with a nervous laugh. You were honest? That is greater than strength, she said. Later that evening, the two of them sat near the observation window, looking at the stars. A soft hum filled the air as small ships passed outside. So, does this make us official now? Matthew asked. It always was, Yavira said, her voice low. Matthew chuckled. Right, I forgot. They didn't need to say more. The silence between them was warm, comforting. For the first time in his life, Matthew didn't feel like just another name on a long list of technicians. He felt seen. Not because of medals or fame, but because someone had chosen to know him deeply and still stayed, and he had chosen to stay. The station grew quiet in the weeks that followed, but for Matthew, life was anything but boring. He spent most days working with tools, fixing loose panels, and helping with ship systems. Yavira often joined him, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Their bond was no longer a strange idea, it had become part of their routine. Each day brought small changes. She began using more of his words, he began learning hers. Sometimes they would just sit quietly and share tea, no big moments. Just, peace, but things didn't stay calm forever. One afternoon, alarms echoed through the station. Matthew dropped his tools and checked the display. Something was wrong in the outer ring, an energy leak from a visiting freighter. The leak wasn't just dangerous, it was unstable. If left unchecked, it could spread to the fuel tanks. He grabbed his gear and ran. When he reached the control point, he found Yavira already there, hands moving over the system panels. The shield is weakening, she said. If it drops, the fuel cell will ignite. How long do we have? He asked. Less than 6 minutes. Matthew moved beside her, checking the coolant lines. One was broken. If he could reroute it, the core might cool just enough to stop a chain reaction. I'll go in. He said, Too dangerous, Yavira replied. It's my job. Yavira looked at him for a moment, then gave a slow nod. Then I will go too. Together. They moved through the emergency access tunnel. Sparks fell from above. The air smelled sharp like burning metal. Matthew's hands moved fast, locking clamps, adjusting pressure, checking gauges. Yavira stood guard, guiding him with calm directions. A pipe suddenly burst near them, spraying heat. Matthew stumbled. The VI pulled him back just in time, shielding him with her body. You okay? He asked. Double quotes, yes, she said, her voice steady. They kept going. With only seconds left. Matthew rerouted the final coolant line. The system hissed as the pressure dropped, and then held. Alarms went silent. They did it. Back at the main deck, the crew cheered. Station control sent a thank you message. Both Matthew and Yavira were listed as heroes. But they didn't celebrate, they just looked at each other. You saved me again? Matthew said quietly. You were worth saving, Yavira replied. They sat together in the quiet corner of the cafeteria later. Matthew sipped a warm drink and looked at her. That was scary. Yes, she agreed, but I didn't panic this time. No, she said. You stood firm like a true bondmate. Matthew smiled. I guess we're not just a symbol. Anymore. No, Yavira said. We are real. A group of young cadets walked past them, pointing and whispering. One of them, a tiny alien with glowing spots, waved. Is it true you fought the fire beast together? The small alien asked. Matthew blinked. It was a broken pipe. Yavira looked calm. Stories grow. They both laughed softly. As the stars passed outside and the station lights dimmed to evening mode, Matthew leaned back in his chair and looked at Yavira. So, what now? She thought for a moment. Now we rest. And tomorrow we walk again. Weeks passed on Station Zeta 9, and life slowly returned to normal. But for Matthew and Yavira, nothing felt the same anymore. Everything had changed, not because of the bond or the approval from elders, or the fire emergency, but because they had truly grown close, what started as a misunderstanding had become something strong. Matthew was no longer just a technician with a toolbox. Aliens across the station greeted him with quiet respect. Some came to him for advice, others asked about Earth, but most looked at him and Yavira as something rare, a peaceful joining of two worlds. The VIR stayed close to him, not as a protector or symbol, but as a partner. They shared meals. They worked side by side. And more often now, they laughed soft, small moments, but honest. One morning, Matthew received a call from Dr. Haley. The council wants you and Yavira to attend the Unity Gathering, she said. What's that? Matthew asked. An annual event? Haley explained. Ambassadors and leaders from many species come together. It's formal, usually boring, but this year they want you both to speak. Matthew rubbed his forehead. Me? I'm not good with speeches. Just speak from the heart, Haley said. You've done that before. When Matthew told Yavira, she nodded calmly. We will go. On the day of the gathering, they dressed carefully. Matthew wore a dark earth uniform with a symbol of unity on the chest. Yavira wore a robe that shimmered like moonlight. The cloak she once gave him, her bonding gift, was folded and placed gently on her arm. The event hall was filled with voices, shapes, and colors from every part of the galaxy. Leaders, diplomats, scholars all watching. A council member stepped forward. We welcome Matthew, human technician, and Yavira Valari. Please share your words. They stepped onto the platform together. Matthew took a deep breath. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a leader. I fix broken things, he said. But sometimes you meet someone who makes you want to be more. He looked at Yavira. I said something simple once. It was misunderstood, but instead of walking away, she chose to stay. And I chose to learn. The crowd stayed silent. We're different in many ways, he continued, but we care. We protect, we listen, and that's enough. Then Yavira stepped forward. Many thought our bond would fail, she said. But we walk together. Not because we are the same, but because we respect what makes us different. She held out the cloak, the one she had given him long ago, and placed it gently over Matthew's shoulders. A soft light shimmered from the fabric. Gasps filled the room. It was a silent message in Valeri culture. He was now her true chosen mate. Matthew looked surprised, but didn't take it off. Instead, he smiled. Guess it's official now, he said, and the room filled with soft laughter after the event. As people gathered to talk and share stories, many came to speak with Matthew and Yavira. They didn't just see them as a couple. They saw hope, understanding, proof that even the smallest moment, a word, a glance could become something bigger than anyone imagined. As the two walked back through the station that evening, Matthew looked at her. So, you placed the cloak again, he said. You accepted it, she replied. Yeah, he said, touching the soft fabric. Because this time I understand what it means. They reached the observation deck and stood by the window. Stars filled the darkness outside. The VIRA looked at him. Do you regret anything? Matthew shook his head. Not one thing. She stepped closer and, for the first time, took his hand gently. Then we walked forward, she said. And they did. Two hearts. Two paths, now one direction.